What's going on, YouTube? Yeah, let's see. I definitely do not have a plan for this live stream because I spent the majority of yesterday doing the finishing touches of my two-man game video, and I think it came out great. I'm extremely excited to see what people think about it because it is the longest video you would ever think would be on a two-man game ever. Um, let's see. The whole idea of that two-man game video is that I basically teach it in a multitude of different ways. So I've seen a lot of two-man game stuff online where coaches will teach it at practice, or box players will teach it, but they'll only teach one aspect of a two-man game, which I feel is a little bit inadequate based on how smart kids are and how well they play today, because I feel like kids get bogged down in the idea of not doing exactly what their coach tells them to do. And so therefore, whenever something doesn't happen perfectly, they end up getting upset that they didn't do it correctly. And then it just makes it a whole, it's tough for them because they're supposed to read the field. They're supposed to do what they should do, but then a coach tells them that they have to do something specific, and then it doesn't happen, and then they can't actually just play the sport. So my two-man game video basically goes into all of the different two-man games. It also teaches picking what I call perfect pick. Then it goes into basically a story, which I think is a cool way of understanding a two-man game, which is kind of the story you have from the perspective of a off-ball player and then a ball carrier, and then defenseman, and then defending it, and then a bunch of advanced tactics, and then locations. But so it basically covers every single thing I know about a two-man game, which is why it took me so long. But so the entire video I'm like shocked at this. This is why it took so long. The entire video is an hour and 51 minutes long. That's ridiculous. Like, it's unbelievable to me how long that video actually is. So I'm excited to see what people think. I'm betting that some people will like certain parts and then dislike other parts. And then I'm excited to get working on something new as well. So I'm not really sure what route I'll go. There are a lot of smaller videos that I want to make, like the Virginia 2-2-2 offense, the 2-3-2 clear. I think that one would be a good one to do, and I think I can do those much quicker than this one. This one, there's so many options to two-man games, which is why this took so long. But I think that when it comes to things that are very specific, like even the Penn State offense, and a couple people have noticed this, the Penn State offense is really three offenses, and that's why I put up the last three videos, which is the pairs high offense, the wings offense, or the pairs wings offense, and then pairs behind. But the whole idea of, I guess, of creating these videos is that, so, I mean, everybody probably knows this quote, but you've heard Will Smith talk about, Will Smith, Gary Vee, all these people talk about this stuff. But so Will Smith says it in a specific way. He's like, his dad knocked down a brick or a wall off of his like building and had his brother and him rebuild it, and they looked at it and they were like, man, that looks impossible. And then he basically said, lay each brick as perfectly as you possibly can. And that's kind of the idea with the videos, is to make videos as well, like the best way I can, take as long as I need to, even though sometimes it gets pretty crazy, and just to produce something that will last as long as possible, because there's new stuff coming into the sport all the time. But so I'm pretty excited about this video. Hopefully it'll be coherent. You never really know. I did watch through it last night to make sure that it was all correct, and I fixed a couple things here and there. It took me, yesterday I added in a bunch of the later examples. Every time the Instagram one just goes, because this pop socket's just it's not holding up as well as it could. I know what I'll do. I'll go like this. There we go. Like this. And then like this. There we go. That should hopefully hold. But so that's that. And so now I'm going to get into a couple of other topics, and I need to actually pull it up. I was supposed to do this before, but I will pull it up as quickly as I can. So what I want to talk about today is youth rules that are just dumb, that don't make any sense, that there are, well, let me rephrase that. Youth rules that are made for parents who have no idea what they're doing coaching and basically ruin the game for kids because they don't understand what the purpose of playing a sport is when they're 8 years old or 7 years old or 6 years old. Because once you get up to 10, 11, 12, it should be competitive. I think the competitive nature of those things should be there. But more importantly, when rules are created for these lower levels, they're made for people who screw it up. And so there was a post in the lacrosse coaches group discussion group that I'm in, and it was awesome. It was about I think it's U10 rule, where once you cross midfield, you have to throw a pass before you can shoot. And it basically creates this, it creates this thing where, first off, the kids are not playing the game the way they should be playing the game because they have to throw a pass. And because they have to throw a pass, they're not able to go to the goal and shoot, which people in Colorado have been screwing with this rule where they will lock off everybody but the player with the ball because he can't go shoot. And it's screwing with the way that these players are playing and learning the game. And there's such a much better way of dealing with this issue. And so there were a bunch of really great ideas that people had as they commented on this video. And so I just wanted to mention some of those comments and then go through, some of the, here it is. Okay. And then go through kind of my own idea on it. And some of the things that these people brought up were amazing. And so I think I'm not going to mention anybody's names or anything like that, but there were some ideas that really make sense. So I kind of gave you an overview of what that is. And now I actually have this up. Hopefully this looks like everything's still functioning, right? I'm always freaked out that this is going to just like screw up somehow. Okay. So basically, here's the idea of youth lacrosse. And this is something that I think everybody should utilize. Kyle, what do you mean, what's the issue on the Instagram? The interaction's always cool. I think people should ask more questions. I think questions are better. So here's the issue with the one pass rule. The issue is that if a coach, first off, parents on the sideline are ridiculous because even though they have to have one pass, it's one pass attempt. So the kid will throw the ball, the other player won't catch it, and then they'll go pick up the ball, and then every parent on the sideline is yelling, "You're hot, you're hot, you're hot." And so now the kid is running to the goal, trying to shoot through 3 people instead of actually, playing. You know what I mean? So the other issue is this. And one of the people on the group pointed this out, that basically the face-off players will win the ball forward and then they'll dodge through 3 people. And I'm thinking to myself, if it's U10, which is 9-year-olds and below, it doesn't make sense to face off for 9-year-olds. You have a 45-minute game, 22-minute running halves, maybe. And if you have 22-minute running halves, you're wasting time. If every goal that's scored in even if it's 77 10-on-10 game, you're wasting 30 seconds to go set the ball down and have them face off, you are wasting an ungodly amount of time in the perspective of actually having a game for a 9-year-old. What should happen in those games is it should be played like box. It should be played 5-on-5 with or without goalies. I think U8 shouldn't have goalies. I think it should just be a small 3x3 goal that'll play through it fast. And then for 10 and under, that might be the way it is, I'm not really sure. And then for 9 and under, it should be you can have goalies, maybe 7-on-7. I really like that. What's up, Rob? I got to make sure. If people are commenting, I like to interact, but I also don't want to get off topic. But so, as this whole thing progresses, here's my fix. And these are not my fixes. These are things that people mentioned. Most notably was the idea of having a time limit of how much time you can have with the ball. I think that's the best idea, is make it so that as the ref is doing it, once the ball moves or someone picks it up, they have 5 seconds to throw the ball. And 5 seconds is a lot of time. A player can get, say you're playing on a shortened field, so let's go shorter than 70. Let's go with like a 60-yard field, maybe just, halfways across the field. And a player picks up the ball. Young kids can run about half of that. And so by giving it a 5-second rule, you make a player throw the ball, at least look up and throw the ball. Even if you don't want to do the time limit, the idea of mandating a pass doesn't work. And so I'm going to run through those reasons again. First off, if you mandate a pass, that means that the player with the ball doesn't get a realistic understanding of how to beat a player and get in on goal to score, because there's no incentive for him to try and dodge to the goal. You also get coaches who will lock off everybody but the ball carrier because he can't go in to shoot on goal. And as you lock off everybody else, you basically play that first pass, and that ruins the integrity of the game even more. Then you add in parents on the sideline who yell, pass, 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 pass. And then once a pass is attempted, if that same team picks up the ball, they're like, you're hot, you're hot, you're hot. And that kid then runs through 8 people, and it doesn't work. Like it's not the game. And so for U8, it should be, like I mentioned, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, full field, right? Like just you get to play the full field. If you want to go at 9-year-olds or 8-year-olds, they can then go to 7v7. That's fine. But if the goal is scored, don't face off. It doesn't make sense. Having everyone pause so that 2 players can be involved in a face-off when kids are 9 and under doesn't make any sense to me. It's the same idea as running line drills with 5 guys in each line running at each other. It's just, there's not enough action. The sport needs to be played, and it needs to be played quickly, and kids have to be in the game as much as possible. So those are the issues with the 1 pass rule. And the fixes are time limit, 5 seconds. If you hold the ball for more than 5 seconds, the ball is immediately turned over. Player has to drop the ball and then move it. Which also forces the off-ball players to respect, players who are off-ball. You're not going to let them, go other places. But so here's where this gets interesting. And this is where as I've been working on this 2-man game video, I've been spending all of my time on that video, not posting to Instagram, not posting to Facebook. Like I do little things here and there, but I need to do more. But I've been focusing so much on this video that I haven't been doing it as much as I should. But so and then I lose my train of thought because I can't think through the whole idea. So, that's what it is. So even if it is 4v4, full field, shortened fields, 50 yards fields, no goalies, and you are playing through these, and you just allow them to play, no face-offs, after a goal is scored, the other team picks it up and that kid gets to run. Even if you have Comet Ball, which is one kid running with the ball and everybody else is chasing them, that's better than facing off. And if that kid can go score a goal, good for him. He's a 7-year-old. It's not bad for his development because he ran to the goal, I remember my first goal. This is the best story ever. So my very first goal ever playing lacrosse, I was in 5th grade, I think. So I had found the sport when I was really young, I think like 6, but then I didn't actually play with anybody till I was 9 or 10 because I just played in the backyard with my brothers. But so I win this face-off and I run through the middle of the field and I go, and I'm walking the dog in front of me the whole time. And I go left, right, left, and it's like I'm doing an egg spoon balance game, and then I put it on my shoulder and I bounce shot and I scored. It was the coolest. I felt so cool. But that experience for me, I wasn't doing any techniques right. I wasn't doing anything correctly, but it sold the game for me. It was awesome. I felt so cool. And so I think that's the thing where as adults try to make the game they try and force their own mentality into a game. You don't even know if an 8-year-old understands the idea of throwing a pass to someone because that person has an impact on the game. That's why U.S. Lacrosse probably mandates the pass, is to try and get them thinking about it. But from all of what I've read on the US lacrosse and USA hockey stuff. It's that players who are that young have no comprehension of the idea of team play. What they do have an understanding of is how they affect the world. So that's what they're trying to learn when they're 8 and under. Now, once you hit 9, now you're pushing into the idea of starting to learn, give and goes, pass the ball and cut. And then you get the idea of how you should act when you have the ball versus how you should act when you don't. And so I think that so here's another fix for this rule. Rather than having a rule where a player will face off, or say even if they get the ball, what you do is you set up the opposing team where the 3 defensemen on the other team will just guard around him, right? And so you're going to have the kid who's more athletic who will just run through all 3 kids because he had a growth spurt before the other kids. But you do teach the other kids how to play, and then you can talk to the other player who ran through all the kids and say, hey, little Timmy over there, he's wide open. You should try to pass him the ball next time. And so then maybe you give it to little Timmy to start the game. And as they all are in positions to make decisions, that's what helps them build their confidence and be an actual part of the sport versus a spectator who is watching the bigger kids play. Now, here is another thing that I think is widely underused and needs to be used a million times more. Let's say we are at the middle school level. So you're talking 10, 11, 12. They're almost in high school. They're almost going to hit their growth spurts. Some kids probably already have. But those kids that hit their growth spurts early end up as worse players when they hit 17, 18 than the other ones around them, unless they play with kids who are all their own athletic level. So a player who is more athletic can cheat because he can just run as fast as he can and no one can keep up with them, and you get those players who can do that. So let's take the idea every year on high schools all around the country. The idea is let's recruit the football kids. They're athletic, they're fast, they don't have not a lick of lacrosse talent at all. And so the idea is, what position are they going to play? I think he's a D-mid. For sure he's a D-mid because he can't cradle, he can't pass. But if you give him the ball, no one's going to be able to catch him. I remember a couple years ago at Grandview, Bluebaugh was his name. He was athletically crazy. And every year, and I get why football coaches do this, I get it. Every year the football coach says, you're going to run track. Because if you can work on speed and then play football, and now you're a 2-sport athlete, oof, that's awesome. Now, from my perspective, I think running sucks. Running is awful. I hate running. But if I can chase something, I'm like a dog, If someone's throwing a ball for me, I'm gung-ho. I'm running as fast as I can. I'm trying to do it as much as I can. I'm trying to play the best I can, right? But so for me, it's more of soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and then lacrosse in the spring, or even football in the fall. But just the idea of playing a sport where all I have to do is do technique and running, it bores me. But I get why people enjoy it, and I get why people like to have players do it. But so, main idea behind all this, to wrap that whole thought back up, is the idea that if a player is more athletic than other people, he gets away with cheating, and that's not a good thing unless that player is playing with kids who are just as athletic as he is. And so those are the kids that, for me, as I'm coaching them, I harp on those kids more than anybody else, because once their peers reach them and they're hanging their stick because they've been able to for years because they've been faster, they're the ones that are going to fail later because they haven't had to work on technique. Whereas the little kid who has worked on his speed and his change of direction and understands how to protect his stick, that is a kid that I want, because once he, fills into his body, he's going to not only then have the same athleticism as the other kid, be quick and shifty, but he's going to be able to, protect the ball, protect his stick, and work in a lot of tight places, whereas the bigger kid who just ran over everybody isn't. So that's another just little idea as far as why you almost want to stack the deck against the more athletic kids when they are 8, to try to show them those teamwork ideas first, or even, and then you're actually teaching the other players kind of how to double it. You know what? If that athletic kid, if you triple team him as you blow the whistle, instead of, so let's say this athletic kid runs through the first time, runs through his man and scores. And then they get the ball back and he gets it and he scores again. And then say the other team scores. When you if you give the first ball to that athletic kid, you should have all of the opposing players line up in front of him and force him to pass. And this whole no contact thing, I get the idea of no hitting. I understand it. But if you watch women's lacrosse, there's a lot of contact to women's lacrosse. The whole idea where they hold their stick up and down and they use their elbows to like elbow people off, it's amazing. It's great. There's a lot of contact. It's the same amount of contact you're going to have in a 3x game where you have no pads. And by doing that to an 8 and 7-year-old, you're going to help them with their development. Now, they may just be doing what you told them to do, and they may have no understanding of why that is, but at least they are doing at least they're seeing the game for what it is, instead of having that athletic kid get the ball and then have to wait up top while everyone else locks off everybody else because he has to make a pass. And then just like, the parents are the worst though. The parents are the worst. Pass, pass, pass. You're hot. You're hot. You're hot. Go to the goal. Jimmy, go to the goal. Mikey, get him. Mikey, get him. Sorry, I shouldn't cuss. Sorry. So yeah, I'm trying not to cuss as much, especially on a live stream, but either way, I don't think too many people care. Rob, what do you mean by that? So Rob just said it helps them play defense. Yeah, totally. Do you mean as far as putting them into specific scenarios where then they have to kind of like see the different things as far as helping them play defense against that athletic kid? So Shane just mentioned that they are on the island. I've assumed that you mean Long Island because it's probably not the Caribbean. But so you're saying that just having no face-offs as far as U8 and playing 7-on-7, it definitely is a lot more playtime. Vancouver Island. Well, is that on the West Coast? I don't know where Vancouver is, so is it above Seattle? I want to say it's above Seattle, but I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. But so that's very cool. I definitely think that more touches, more play is way better than not. It's just stop trying to control the game. So I had this conversation with a guy on Instagram the other day. He was asking about it actually was on Instagram. It was through email. Which, by the way, if you ever have any questions about any videos or anything, feel free to email me at any time because I love the interaction more than just sitting here making videos by myself. But he asked about the Penn State offense, and he, laid out generalities. I feel like it's 3 different sets to begin with. What tips do you have on how to implement it? And everything that I know now says speed is first. If you're not playing with speed, you're not doing anything efficient. So 4v3 drills where you put kids on the exterior of the field no matter where they are. The 3v2 to 4v3 drill, that's an amazing one too, that just makes kids play. And then you can force specific actions. If there's a pass, someone other than the player who threw the pass has to set a pick. And therefore, once you get into the idea of setting picks in certain places, you run it as a drill where they just have to play with a specific thing that they're trying to do. Now, if they get in on goal because they dodged, good, they should shoot that ball. But there's an intent there that is on the back end. Then, once you end up getting into there, once they end up playing quickly, then when you put them into those 6-on-6, those even situations, the back end people are still thinking fast. And so as the ball moves around, you get picks that happen quicker and more efficiently. So the speed is first. And with the speed being first, then everything else should fall around it. What aspect of the Ohio State defenses, Rob? So for the most part, I don't think Ohio State does anything too drastically different than a zone or than a near man style of defense, but I could be wrong. I would have to see it. That's another interesting thing. So when I created the Wesleyan zone video, which is a 3-3 zone, I saw all of these I saw this Inside Lacrosse article about it, and this guy commented on it and said, that's not a 3-3 zone, that's a backer zone. But I've never actually seen a backer zone run. Like, I don't think I've ever seen it in the men's game. In the women's game, it's all over. It's everywhere. And the whole idea that you can't stand in the 8-meter line for more than 3 seconds, just, there are so many issues I have with women's lacrosse, which is why a lot of the girls out here now play box with the guys, which is very cool. But so, as far as the Wesleyan zone video, that 3-3 zone that they ran against Salisbury, like, it wasn't a backer zone. If it is, I missed something huge, but they ran a 3-3 against Salisbury in the championship game. They may have done a backer zone in other games during that year, but from what I saw, everything they did looked like a 3-3 zone where they're just snapping back into place. I can probably look up. I think I have a bunch of Ohio State games. Let me look. Do you remember, Rob, if there was any Ohio State games that you remember seeing that had the defense that you're talking about? Because if there is, then I should be able to. I can probably look one up. Especially, I think I still have my ESPN subscription. I'm not really sure. Okay, so we already talked about the 2-man game stuff. I'm just trying to see where we're at. I definitely have no script here, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this, because I was working all day yesterday on finishing the 2-man game video. My 2-man game video took 10.5 hours to export. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I can't believe it took that long to export. I'm excited for it to be done, and I'm excited to move on, but it's pretty nuts. So I don't know if I have all these tagged, but as far as my Ohio State videos are concerned, I've got the Penn State game, the Rutgers game, and the Notre Dame game. So if any of those game has, so BC at OSU, I will look that up for sure, because I definitely would like to see if there's some interesting new thing that they are doing. I think so. If you guys have any perspective on what I should do next, that was another question I wanted to ask everybody. So here are my options. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. So the first thing that I would like to do before spring is I would like to create an actual guide to coaching U8, U10, U12, U14. And just, I don't know how basic it's going to be, but I'm hoping it can be basic enough to allow for it to move relatively quickly so I can get them out before the spring. They will also probably have a video accompanying them, and I'm pretty sure I'll be traveling to Tacoma, Washington to give these clinics to some coaches up there. And if that does happen, I'll be filming them and they'll go up on the site. If not, I'll probably do them here, but wherever we do them doesn't matter. So that's one of my goals for spring. My next goal is to do the 2-2-2 offense from Virginia, as well as the 2-3-2 clear. And then I think that's basically it for now. But so this Ohio State offense could be cool. I definitely think that would be good. So, Rob, if you could explain the defense, that would definitely help me to kind of see it. Is it a near man style? Is it sliding? Is it some kind of zone? If there's anything that would help me to see the clips that you might be seeing, let me check. So you mentioned Penn State, so I'll check that one out really quick. I know when I was watching the Penn State video, I definitely was looking more for Penn State rather than Ohio State. What are some other rules that are just not good rules? I think that they've done a very good job recently. They've done a really good job recently of making sure that everything is kind of flowing a little bit better. I think the new crease rule seems ridiculous. Oh, I need to stop getting into other programs so that it looks like my video output is struggling. Okay, so no more looking into my programs. Bull rushing. So they're sliding fast then. Looks like my health is not there on the YouTube stream. Sounds like sliding fast. So I'll definitely make sure that I check it out. I think that would be cool to see if there's some new offensive stuff. So as far as other, I don't know that there are any more youth rules that are dumb. I definitely think that the idea of facing off is dumb for younger guys. There's another video I've got to do. I want to do a stick video where I teach everyone kind of what to look for in sticks, because so here are the sticks to avoid. Any starter STX stick, any starter Under Armour stick, any starter Warrior stick other than the warps. So String Kings, their complete sticks are great. They're strung right. You can throw with them. They're awesome. The POWL sticks I've never experienced, but I hear that they're strung correctly. East Coast Dice has just come out with some new stick. I forget what it's called, but it is a stick that players can just pick up and use right away. I'm trying to think, is there any other? I'm not sure how the Alpha sticks are. I'm not sure how some of these other brand ones are, but the idea that you can have a what do you call it? The idea that you can have a stick that looks fine, like the STX and Under Armour sticks, is just not correct. It's just not right. Like once they play for longer than a week, it like bags out, and then you get the shooter strings that are way too tight for a bagged out pocket, so it just whips into the ground, and they learn this terrible technique. But so I want to do a video where we talk all about that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I've got to get on to installing the the 2-man game video, and yeah, so I appreciate you guys taking the time. Rob, Shane, and Todd, I definitely appreciate you guys interacting. I think we had one on Instagram as well, Kyle. So I appreciate you guys for watching this. Definitely let me know if there's any other thing that you would like to see, whatever. I really want to hear what you guys think of the 2-man game video. It is so long though, but I am going to put in timestamps that you can click this time instead of the numbers on the video. So I've got to work on that today. Dude, thanks, Shane. That's cool. That's way cool. I'm very excited that the videos I've made have helped you coach and that the players are getting better. That's the biggest key. The biggest key is that the players can get better. So as I was mentioning earlier about the idea of laying each brick as perfectly as possible, which is why I made a 2-man game video that was an hour and 51 minutes long. My next big project is going to be an app, and I started doing coding, but then I couldn't produce videos and learn how to code. But so I'm starting to do, I'd like to be able to code so that I can basically get an app built. But so the app is going to be something where as you watch my videos, you can actually practice plan using either your drills or my drills, but it'll be an app that as you're at practice, it'll be on your phone as it just sits there. And then as you move into and out of specific sets, as you practice plan, you'll be able to pick certain skills and techniques that you want to add into whatever drill, so that as you're on the field, it'll have a time frame. You'll be able to go up and back between whichever drills you want. And then you'll be able to actually click on the skill that you want to see, and it'll show you in a video form, in a picture form, and the video will be hopefully under 15 seconds long. So just bare bones exactly what it is. So for question marks, throw your stick to the sideline, turn to go get it, keep your stick on the outside, throw the ball behind you. So that as coaches who aren't as familiar with the game coach their younger players, they'll be able to coach with the proper techniques as much as possible. That's another thing that I think coaches need to do more often when they don't have experience with the game, is to actively try to build their own stick skills just like the players are, just because it gives you such a much better understanding of exactly what the kids are actually going through. But so I think that's a good thing for coaches to do, because but then the most important part is to facilitate the idea of play. So there's all these little caveats into everything that always makes sense. But so I'm going to wrap this up. Little man did great today. I kind of pushed his limits as far as when he took his nap. But so thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I will see you next week. Hit me up if you guys need anything. See ya.